Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Since I made the video reviewing the Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia fight, a lot of people have left comments, and people I've spoken to, they sent me messages and they've said that Ryan Garcia quit. He could have gotten up and he quit. Okay, so let's have a little look at that. Let's first of all, let's look at the concept of quitting. People quit for different reasons. Okay, so let's pull a few out of the top of my head. Roberto Duran is a famous example in the second fight with Sugar Ray Leonard. He was frustrated. His attitude seemed to be, if you don't want to fight, I'm going to quit. I'm not going to, you don't want to fight, I won't fight. Go and get lost. You're not worth my time. But he quit. Vitaly Klitschko, he essentially quit against, what was it against now? I know he had a busted shoulder, didn't he? Who am I thinking of? He quit against someone, I know that. After, was it 9 rounds? Yeah, and he quit. He just had enough. And it was, I remember Larry Merchant on the HBO broadcast saying, you know, he doesn't have what it requires to be a champion. Vitaly Klitschko, of course, went on to be, you know, to have a good run as a champ, WBC champ. Gave Lennox Lewis a very good fight before being stopped on, you know, those awful cuts. Likewise, Roberto Duran, even though he quit against Leonard, he had a very good career that followed. Won other belts. You remember the fights with Davey Moore and Aaron Barkley and others. He had plenty left. And there are other examples. Nigel Benn in his first defeat against Michael Watson. It was very similar, actually, in the sense that to the Garcia fight, the Tank versus Garcia fight, where Ben kind of got up at 10.5. He was absolutely exhausted. He was mentally demoralised. He'd shot his gasket, busted his gasket by trying to get rid of Michael Watson early. Watson had covered up, boxed a beautiful tactical fight. When Ben wasn't punching, Watson was, forcing Ben to fight at a pace he didn't want. And Ben, he just outfought, and mentally he was stronger than Ben. And Ben essentially sort of half quit. There are other examples. Billy Joe Saunders and Daniel Dubois both retired with busted eye sockets. I mean, I remember when Vitaly Klitschko quit, he said, look, if you're driving a car and the tyre is down, is punctured, you don't carry on driving because you'll ruin the tyre. You stop and you get the tyre fixed. And Dubois and Saunders could argue the same thing or have a very similar viewpoint. And it's not one I would disagree with. I do think that sometimes discretion is the better part of valour, and that, you know, live to fight another day is an option. I think there are different forms of quitting. So let's look at Ryan Garcia, because when I was watching that fight and when that sort of shock ending happened, and I did find it shocking, to be honest, there was an excellent left hand. There wasn't much leverage on the left hand, but it was more the excellent part was the placement rather than the sort of, you know, torque behind it. But it did land in a good spot on Garcia. It may not have landed exactly under the rib, but it, you know, into the liver, but it landed on the rib. That's painful enough. And Garcia grimaced very, very badly when it landed. If you look at the slow-mo, backed off, got his poker face on, was looking at Tank. I don't know whether Tank said something to him. And then as Tank moved forward, Garcia decided to take a knee. Now, when you decide to take a knee, you're then faced with that ultimate question. Am I going to get up? Am I going to try and fiddle my way through to the end of the round and regroup? Am I in too much pain to get up? I mean, there are some knockdowns, for example, when Matthew Macklin had a rib, you know, fractured or busted or whatever it was against Golovkin. He was riding around on the canvas. No way on earth could he get up. You know, you can't blame him for that one. Yeah, I mean, Garcia, you're faced with that moment where you've got to decide, do I want to get up or not? Can I get up? If I get up, what's waiting for me? And all this goes through your mind in seconds. So you could say that that's the crunch moment where you discover what type of fighter you are. And there's no doubt that Ryan Garcia has a great deal of talent. He hits hard, he's very slick, beautiful skills. He stands a bit upright, there's plenty wrong with his game, but he's only 24. So what's the decision that he made? Well, he probably thought, do you know what, I could get up. And he almost certainly could have gotten up. He sort of got up at, 10 and a half, 11, and he was walking around fine afterwards. So essentially, yes, you could say he quit. But unless you're in his boots, it's difficult to sort of gauge how serious a moment that was for him. Now, we're going to get into the realms of, well, Garcia was, he's a young kid and he's masses of Instagram followers and, he's got interest outside the game and he's making a lot of money from social media and so on, kind of like Tommy Fury is over here. And he's been saying, again, like Tommy Fury has, I'm a fighter, I'm a real fighter. When it comes to the crunch, those crunch moments when you're in physical pain and you're facing huge spur-of-the-moment mental questions, that's really crunch time. And it seems to me that if that is the criteria you're using for branding a guy a quitter, then yes, he failed the test. He failed the test. But having said that, at 24 years of age, bearing in mind the fact that Vitaly Klitschko quit, Nigel Benn quit, Duran quit, and there are many others you can go. I'm just using those as more famous examples. Does that mean Ryan Garcia's career is over? No, clearly not, because he's got a lot of time to redeem himself, to decide what do I want to do, and to learn from that experience. Because although Garcia has scored, some half decent wins, Luke Campbell being one of them, he's never been in a fight that intense, under that intense a spotlight. And I thought he basically handled it quite well. I mean, you take the second round knockdown? It was a second round, wasn't it? Or third round? I thought it was a second round, might be the third round. Yeah, that was a beautiful shot by Tank, which sort of pinged Ryan onto his backside. But he wasn't hurt, and he got straight up and carried on fighting. Now, he did go a little bit gun-shy, a little bit into his shell a little bit, because he was wary of getting, pinged with a razor-sharp counter again, and that's understandable. But it's not like he punked out. It's not like that shot put him over. So I suppose you could say, yeah, well, it was an easy shot to get up from, even though it looked very sort of picturesque and, Tank bounced him off the canvas. Ryan was fine. Ultimately, he's going to have to learn from this experience and decide what he wants to do. If you put a gun to my head, I'm going to say yes. In my opinion, he quit, or half quit. He could have gotten up within the 10 seconds, but decided not to. So by definition, you have to say he quit. But that doesn't necessarily mean that A, it's a cowardly act. He's got no heart. It puts a question mark over it. But I get back to, one of my favourite fighters, Nigel Benn. After that Watson defeat, I thought he'll never be the same again. In fact, he wasn't. He was better, because he went away to America. He had a few fights against good quality journeymen. Jose Quinones was one, and Sandline Williams, I think, was another. And then he blew away Doug DeWitt in 6 rounds. Came off the floor to do it as well. Won the WBO middleweight title, which was lightly regarded at the time. And then he came back. He had another defeat to Eubank, which was an absolute war, no quitting him that time. And then, of course, he came back, won the WBC title, and had that absolute barn burner, that incredible, unbelievable war with Gerald McClellan, and came through it. So no one would look back on Nigel Benn's career and say, he didn't have the heart of an absolute warrior. He did. He quite clearly did. And yet, 1989, I watched it. I saw him essentially do a Ryan Garcia, if you like, or maybe Ryan Garcia did a Nigel Benn, and quit in that fight against Michael Watson. Essentially, sort of half quit. Again, could have gotten up within 10. Did he mistime the count? Possibly, but I don't think Ryan mistimed the count. I think Ryan sat it out essentially. You know, there is some sort of, well, you know, I got up at 10 and a bit. I got up at 11. Well, that's not good enough. You know, and then you're walking around in the immediate aftermath. Fine. I mean, or you look fine. No, when it came to the moment of truth, Ryan kind of blew it, I think. Because if he got up and then Tank had smashed him around the ring and knocked him clean out, people would be saying, they would be lauding Tank and saying, they might be saying, well, Ryan was overrated, which they're saying anyway. But they wouldn't be saying he's a punk or a quitter. They wouldn't accuse him of quitting. And that seems to be the cardinal sin in boxing, and always has been, or pretty much always has been. Unlike, say, you know, mixed martial arts or UFC, Bellator, you know, where they tap out and no one really thinks much of it. It's just another way of winning. No one doubts that they're warriors because they get into that damn octagon, you know. Well, if you get into the ring and you show a level of ability and skill that Garcia has shown. I mean, don't forget he got off the floor against Campbell, and that was a far heavier knockdown than the early one against Tank. But he got up and he came back and he won, or ironically by a body shot. But so I think there's definitely a question mark over Ryan Garcia, but I wouldn't write him off just yet. I think he can come back. I think he's got to decide what he wants to do. Does he want to be a fighter? Because being a fighter, I mean, Jesus Christ, it's the hardest game of all. If you're making lots of money outside the ring, why would you want to be a fighter? I don't know. I never had the temperament to be a boxer. I probably never had the talent. Although, dedication gets you a long way, even if you've got minimal talent. But Ryan's got the talent. But does he want to do it? When it comes to those crunch moments, those huge, questions that are asked ultimately in the ring, can he reverse what we saw on Saturday night? And when he's faced with that type of crises again, can he come through it? Can he do the right thing, the thing he doesn't want to do, the thing that he knows is the right thing, but the thing he knows is going to be painful? Can he do that? Maybe, maybe not. It's up to him. It's literally up to him. You can have the best trainer in the world, but it's your life. It's your call. Those crisis moments, we face them all in life in different ways, and it's how we react by doing the right thing, which is not necessarily the thing we want to do, and is certainly not necessarily the easiest thing to do. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. I know some of you do feel that Ryan Garcia quit against Tank Davis, but, give me your opinions. Where do you think he goes from here? I'm always interested to read your thoughts. And, of course, spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Please do. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and, hit the like button. I appreciate that too. You help the channel out by doing that. Hope you had a nice weekend. Thanks for your time as always. Can't get my words out. Thanks for your time as always, and much love to you. And we'll speak again soon. Of course we will. Bye for now.